Most people, maybe even you included, are living below what I call the border, stuck in the bottom sections of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, operating from survival consciousness, trying to force their 3D reality to make them feel safe. But here's what I've discovered. You can't cross that border into self-actualization by working harder in the 3D world. You cross it by mastering your 5D reality first. And here's what might surprise you. This isn't just spiritual philosophy. Quantum physics has proven that consciousness literally creates reality. In this episode, I'm showing you the exact framework I use in my Gentle Mastery Manifestation Intensive to help people make this shift, and I'm grounding it in cutting-edge quantum mechanics. Welcome back to the Gentle Mastery Podcast. I'm Dave Hime. Today we're talking about something that bridges ancient wisdom and modern science. This is the foundation of my Manifestation Intensive, and it's based on how consciousness and quantum mechanics actually work. You've probably tried manifestation before. Vision boards, affirmations, positive thinking. Maybe it worked temporarily, or maybe it didn't work at all. The reason? Well, the reason is because you were trying to change your 3D reality without first mastering your 5D reality. And you weren't working with the quantum mechanics that govern how reality actually forms. See, there's a quantum bridge here. For decades, spirituality and science seemed separate. Quantum physics changed everything. Now we have scientific proof for what mystics have always known. Your consciousness isn't separate from reality. It's what creates reality. By the end of this episode, you'll understand what I mean by 3D reality versus 5D reality, the quantum mechanics that prove consciousness creates reality, why working harder in 3D keeps you trapped below the border, the exact process for mastering 5D reality so your 3D world transforms naturally, and how this relates to crossing Maslow's border from survival to self-actualization. Now, for everybody who's scratching their heads and wondering who the heck this Maslow is and what is this border, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who studied humans and came up with 5 levels of what he called the hierarchy of needs. The bottom 4 levels are all survival-related needs. So safety, belonging, self-esteem. These are all things that we all need. The top level is self-actualization, which means becoming your authentic, creative, divine, magnificent self. I call the space between living in survival mode and living as your self-actualized version the border. It's the threshold between survival consciousness and authentic thriving. What does quantum physics have to do with this? Quantum physics revealed something extraordinary about what we thought was empty space. It's actually a field of infinite potential. It's called the 0-point field. All possibilities exist in this field. That's what I call 5D reality. When you're trapped below the border in survival consciousness, you can't access this field. You're too contracted, too focused on lack. Crossing the border means opening to the quantum field of infinite potential. However, there is a false survival trap that we all fall for. Society tells us we need certain things. We need the perfect house, the impressive title, the optimized body. These aren't real survival needs. They're conditioned beliefs. So I've been caught in that maze over and over again when I thought if I just got a better job or got a different job or got a better car or whatever, that was going to lead me to happiness, that was going to lead me to success, that was going to lead me to my actualized self. I just kept thinking, like, if I could be more productive or, fit into the right box that my bosses wanted me in that particular day, I'd finally feel safe. I would have had survival handled, but I never did. Quantum mechanically, I was scattered across multiple possibilities, never becoming definite. This is how we get stuck below the border in Maslow's hierarchy. Most people try to cross the border by achieving more in their 3D reality. Make more money, get more recognition, accomplish more goals, blah, 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 blah. But this approach keeps you in survival consciousness. You're trying to feel safe through external achievement, which never works. Quantum mechanically, you're trying to change the particle 3D version without shifting the wave 5D version. This will make more sense in a little bit. So if working harder in 3D doesn't get you across the border, what does? That's where understanding how 5D reality and quantum mechanics work together changes everything. So let's talk really quickly about this particle and wave that I just mentioned. And don't worry, I'm going to come back to it again and again. I'm going to give you a really high overview of a very famous quantum physics experiment called the double slit experiment. What that experiment showed is that light behaves as both a wave, which I'm calling infinite potential, and a particle, which I'm calling definite reality. It depends on whether it's being observed. Before observation, it exists, everything exists, as all possibilities simultaneously. This is the key to understanding wanting versus calling. It's also the key to understanding that what I call 5D is where all potentials live infinitely, an infinite number of potentials. It is only when we identify a potential that we call it from the 5D into the 3D and change it from a wave into a particle, which is 3D reality. So let's talk a little bit more about what that 3D reality is. It's your physical, external world, the world that you interact with every day. It's what you can see, touch, or in any way measure. It's your bank account, your body, your relationships, your possessions. It's the material manifestation of your life. In quantum terms, the particle state, definite, measurable, physical. Now, 5D reality is your consciousness, your imagination, your identity, your beliefs. It's the realm of possibility before it becomes physical. It's your energetic signature, your emotional states, your inner experience, your consciousness. In quantum terms, the wave state, infinite potential, all possibilities existing simultaneously. This isn't woo-woo. This is the quantum field where all creation actually begins. So there's a foundation here in quantum mechanics. It's called superposition. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in something called superposition. All possible states happening at once before observation. Right now in the quantum field, there are multiple versions of your life existing simultaneously. the version where you're thriving, and the version where you're struggling. The version where you've already manifested your desires. Your 5D consciousness is what determines which version becomes your 3D reality. Here's another fundamental quantum physics principle: the observer effect. Here's what quantum physics proved that changes everything about manifestation. In quantum physics, a particle exists in multiple potential states until it's observed. Then it collapses into one definite state. The act of observation literally creates reality. Your 5D consciousness is the observer. Your 3D reality is what gets observed into existence. This isn't metaphor. It's measurable, repeatable physics. But how does this work in your life? Every moment, you are the quantum observer. Your attention, belief, and imagination in 5D literally collapse possibilities into 3D reality. You're not separate from what you observe. You are creating it. When you master 5D reality through imagination and belief, you're observing a specific potential future. Your focused awareness in 5D causes that reality to collapse into 3D manifestation. Going at it the other way around, where you try to make it happen in 3D, doesn't work. So, trying to act as if you're wealthy while feeling lack inside, quantum mechanically, you're not actually observing wealth, you're observing lack, pretending to be wealth. The wave function collapses to match what you're truly observing, lack. So, another example is if you force yourself to take action from survival consciousness, the lower 4 levels of Maslow's hierarchy. You're trying to change 3D without working at all on shifting 5D. It's like trying to change your reflection in the mirror without changing yourself first. So creating vision boards without doing inner identity work, your consciousness is still observing your old identity. The wave function collapses to that, not the vision board. So here's what's different about the gentle mastery approach. I have you start in the 5D. Master your consciousness, your imagination, and your identity first. Become the quantum observer of your desired reality. Your 3D reality will naturally collapse to match what you're observing in the 5D. This is manifestation from alignment, not force. You're working with quantum mechanics, not against it. One more quantum thing here. Quantum physics discovered something called entanglement. Two particles connected in such a way that changing one instantly changes the other. That's what entanglement is. And it works no matter how far apart they are. So your 5D consciousness and your 3D reality are entangled in exactly this way. When you genuinely transform your internal state, your external world must respond. It's not magic, it's quantum mechanics. This is why the transformation has to be real in 5D first. You're creating the entanglement. Now, let me show you what this actually looks like in practice. I'm going to walk you through the difference between 3D wanting and 5D calling. We're going to go back to wave and particle, because understanding this distinction from a quantum perspective is crucial. Most of you already know that I have now made available a free Gentle Mastery Method Manifestation Manual. And if you don't already have it, you should pause this podcast now, go to the show notes, click on the link, and download it. I'm about to go through it step by step for you to help you understand how quantum physics fits into all of this. Basically, these things are what I teach in the Manifestation Manual, but then one-on-one, you and me together, in my new Manifestation Intensive. Today, I'm giving you the overview so you understand how this actually works. There are 5 key parts that work together, and they're all grounded in quantum mechanics. Now, the manual is not going to talk at all about quantum mechanics, not using those words. That's why I'm making this podcast. Because there's a really important quantum context that needs to be explained here. When you manifest, you're not trying to force the universe to create something new. You're selecting which of the already existing quantum possibilities you want to experience. That's what mastering 5D really means. Becoming conscious of which superposition you're collapsing into 3D. You are selecting which timeline to inhabit. And you've been doing it your entire life, whether or not you've been aware of it. Part 1 is finding your emotional trigger. It's not just a desire or a goal. Those aren't personal enough. This is a soul-deep calling that moves you from, wouldn't it be nice one day if, to, I cannot keep living like this. This is your foundation. Everything else builds on this emotional trigger. Without the emotional trigger, you're building on sand. I want to bring in here the importance of awareness and how to look at it from this quantum perspective. Remember, you can't measure without that measurement causing a change. The moment your consciousness touches your authentic desire, not the conditioned want, but the soul level calling, you've already begun the quantum shift. Your awareness itself is the creative force. The quantum field responds to consciousness. This is why the first step is becoming aware. It's already transformative. In the manual, I have a lot of worksheets and a lot of other practices for you. There's an emotional trigger identification worksheet that's in the manual. Use it. It helps you distinguish between conditioned 3D wants and authentic 5D calling, because if you're new to thinking about these things, you need a little bit of guidance on how to even understand what it is that you've been conditioned to want versus what it is that's your actual calling. This clarity, once you have it, creates the definite observation that collapses the wave function. Part 2 is about living in your imagination, or it's what I call the 3D aspects. So this is where you build your 5D reality as the quantum observer. It's not just visualizing, it's actively living in your creative imagination. Here is what quantum physics proved. The observer literally creates reality. So there's the quantum mechanics of imagination, let's call it. When you practice the 3D aspects framework that's in the Manifestation Manual, really living in your imagination with all of your senses, you're acting as the quantum observer. You're collapsing the wave function of infinite possibilities into the specific reality you're experiencing in your mind. Your subconscious and the quantum field don't know the difference between vividly imagined and physically real. Both collapse the wave function. Both create entanglement with that reality. So the reason why the 3D aspects framework is there's a physical or sensory aspect to this. What do you see, hear, feel, smell, taste in this new reality? Every sensory detail strengthens the observation. It makes the wave function collapse more complete. There's also an emotional, experiential aspect to this. How does it feel to be this version of yourself? Emotion is the signature frequency that tunes you to specific quantum possibilities. Feel it first in 5D, and you entangle with it. Then there's the identity energetic that's involved in this. Who are you being in this reality? This is the definite particle state you're becoming. Clear identity equals clear observation, which equals clear manifestation. Now, here's why this works quantum mechanically. Your imagination doesn't create from nothing. It accesses the 0-point field, remember that, where all possibilities already exist. You're literally reaching into the quantum field and pulling a specific reality toward you. You're building new neural pathways through embodied imagination. This creates the scaffolding of belief through self-compassion. Not somebody else's beliefs, but your actual beliefs. You're teaching your consciousness to habitually observe this new reality. There's also a practice inside the manual called the 7-day imagination integration practice. It's a daily practice of living in your desired reality. This is something I did. Each day strengthens the entanglement between your 5D consciousness and your desired 3D outcome. You're training yourself to be the constant quantum observer. And I just said that this is something that I did. This is also something that I still do, because my own reality continues to expand. And the emotional trigger that I used before, the 3D imagination exercise I used before, they've already manifested. So for me to move on to my next level, I'm using this process constantly to expand further. Part 3. Partnering with your left brain. Your logical mind will resist all of this at first. That's normal, that's expected. It's trying to measure the current 3D reality and predict from there. That's the left brain's job. But here's what quantum physics taught us. You can't measure it without changing it. So there's this quantum measurement effect. The moment your left brain becomes aware that you're focusing on a new reality, your current reality has already begun shifting. Observation changes what's being observed. That's why we don't fight the left brain. We show it quantum evidence that change is already happening. Here's how you work with your left brain. So you show it evidence that your new reality is possible. You use the left brain, right brain dialogue exercise that's in the manifestation manual. You use the evidence collection practice that's also in the manual, which is gathering proof that transformation is occurring as you go through this process. Your left brain needs to see that the observation is having an effect. Once it does, it stops resisting and starts collaborating. This is the movement. It's key from resistance to collaboration. Instead of fighting the resistance that your left brain has, you collaborate with it. Your left brain becomes part of the observation process. It strengthens the wave function collapse. Both hemispheres working together create more powerful manifestation. Part 4, aligned action in the 3D. Once your 5D consciousness shifts, aligned action emerges naturally. It's not hustle or force, it's action that comes from thriving, not surviving. And you'll know it's aligned because it feels natural, not draining. So there's a quantum entanglement around aligned action as well. Remember, your 5D consciousness and 3D reality are quantumly entangled. When you've genuinely shifted in 5D, the 3D response is inevitable. This is why aligned action feels effortless. You've already entangled yourself with the new reality in 5D. So opportunities and resources and synchronicities naturally appear in the 3D. You're not forcing anything. You're dancing, if you will, with quantum entanglement. So when inner and outer realities merge, that's because that's what's happening in this entanglement. This is when the wave function you've been collapsing in 5D finally manifests fully in 3D. The particle becomes visible and measurable. Your internal observation becomes external reality. Use the manifestation timeline map worksheet in the manifestation manual to track this process. Finally, part 5. Integration. This is when your desires arrive. When 3D reality starts matching your 5D consciousness, this is a critical phase that most people overlook. The importance of anchoring this new reality into your nervous system. It's really a crucial step. This integration is crucial. Otherwise, you might wind up self-sabotaging. You've probably experienced this before. There's also a quantum challenge around receiving. You've been observing the new reality in 5D. Now it's showing up in 3D. But your nervous system might not believe it's real yet. It might try to collapse back to the old wave function, the old identity, the old infinite possibilities. Integration work helps you stabilize the new observation. You're teaching your whole system. This is real. This is who I am now. So there's a personal integration plan, and that's practices for embodying your new reality. It's anchoring the new reality into your body, emotions, and daily life, and making sure the wave function stays collapsed in this new desired state, and you don't freak yourself out too bad. The role of your consciousness signature is really important. That's my combination of your unique human design and gene keys. Everyone's manifestation path looks different. Your energetic blueprint reveals your natural manifestation style. Some people are designed to initiate, others to respond, others to wait for recognition and invitation. Understanding your design means working with your natural quantum mechanics, not against them. Reference the appendix of the manifestation manual and an upcoming podcast episode specifically on consciousness signature. So here's why my method works and others don't. You're working with how consciousness and quantum mechanics actually function. You're engaging your whole system, emotions, imagination, strategy, nervous system, energetic design. You're not forcing reality to comply. You're aligning yourself with who you truly are, then observing that aligned self consistently in 5D. Manifestation unfolds naturally from that observation because quantum mechanics is a law. When you observe clearly, reality responds. Now, I want to be really clear about something. This isn't a quick fix. This is working with the fundamental laws of how reality forms. Let me show you what this actually looked like in my own life. Since most of you have already heard this story before, I'll try to keep this pretty short and sweet for those of you who haven't. There's a lot of information on the podcast and on my YouTube channel. about how this happened in my own life. So I was in my early 60s and spiritually starving, as I've already mentioned. I was dog paddling financially to keep my head above water. But this whole time I was living below the border in Maslow's hierarchy. I was in survival consciousness all the time. I was scattered across multiple versions of Dave, none of them authentic. And then I found my emotional trigger. And when that happened, I couldn't keep living inauthentically. That was the moment that the wave function began to collapse. So what happened internally in the 5D is I spent time, in my case, I had had quite a bit of time leading up to this, but then I spent a concentrated 90 days mastering my own 5D reality, imagination, beliefs, and identity. I started observing a specific version of Dave in the quantum field. That version is the version of me that's the authentic guide, that is spiritually aligned, that is financially abundant. I used 3D aspects, like in the manual, to live fully in that reality in my imagination. Every day for this 3-month period, I was strengthening the observation. I was creating the entanglement. My identity shifted from corporate survivor to consciousness guide. My beliefs about what was possible expanded. My emotional state moved from lack to wholeness. And here's the quantum mechanics behind what happened. I stopped being in superposition, scattered across what I should want. I collapsed into a definite state. Looking back, I can see exactly what happened quantum mechanically. I became a clear, focused observer. I was living in my imagination before it showed up in the 3D, while also going about my regular 3D life. That's how entanglement works. You connect in 5D first. So the 3D world had to respond. And in fact, in my 3D world, my bosses almost invited me to quit my job. All of this was not because I worked harder, but because quantum entanglement is a law of physics. Then the 3D reality transformation, what changed externally from all of this, is I did manifest $333,333.33 and complete freedom to choose how to live my life by the end of that 90-day period. Completely unexpectedly. But it's why I'm here today telling you about it. That financial abundance I was looking for, it arrived. The freedom that I was looking for, it arrived. So once I started my practice, clients just were attracted to my authentic expression. You know, I tell my truth. I'm not pulling anything back. These 3D things weren't separate from my 5D shifts. These were the inevitable 3D reflection of me as the observer in the 5D, making the observation, the particle manifestation of the wave I'd been consistently collapsing. Here's the key insight on this part. The 3D reality transformed because the 5D consciousness shifted first. The moment I became fully conscious of my authentic desire and started observing it consistently as my present reality, the quantum field responded. My awareness itself was the creative force, the observer effect in action. This is all about why gentle mastery exists. And the gentle mastery difference for manifestation. This was not about hustling harder or 5 a.m. bro culture. It was about gentle alignment with who I truly am. It was about working with my unique design, not against it. It's about working with quantum mechanics, not trying to force reality to happen. I was crossing the border from survival to self-actualization, and I was doing it mindfully. I was mastering the quantum observer in 5D first. It was sustainable because it came from alignment, not force. I wasn't making myself do this. I wasn't pretending it or faking it. I had genuinely become that version of myself in 5D. The entanglement was real. So when it manifested in 3D, it felt natural. My nervous system recognized it. Yes, this is who we are. No self-sabotage, no imposter syndrome. Just alignment. Now, we all know when it comes to manifestation, there are plenty of misconceptions and myths and mistakes out there. So I just want to go over a few of those. The first misconception is I just need to think positive. Positive thinking without embodied transformation is spiritual bypassing. Quantum mechanically, you're trying to observe something you don't actually believe. The wave function collapses to what you truly observe, not what you pretend to observe. You need to actually live in 5D reality, not just think about it. Become the genuine observer, not the fake one. Second misconception is I'll manifest when I take action. Action from survival consciousness creates more survival. Quantum mechanically, you're trying to change the particle, the 3D, without shifting the wave, the 5D. Like trying to change your reflection without changing yourself. You need 5D mastery first, then aligned action emerges. Entanglement happens in consciousness before it happens in matter. Third misconception. This should work quickly. Quantum shifts can be instantaneous, but integration takes time. Your nervous system needs time to anchor new realities. You're not just collapsing a wave function. You're becoming a new observer. That identity shift requires practice, repetition, and consistency. Rushing the process often leads to self-sabotage. The old wave function trying to reassert itself. Gentle, sustainable transformation is more powerful. Misconception number 4. I can skip my emotional trigger. Without the soul deep why, you're just chasing external validation. You remain in scattered superposition, undefined, unfocused. The emotional trigger is what moves you from 3D wanting to 5D calling. It's what collapses you from wave to particle. From all the possibilities I should want to this is who I actually am. That definitiveness is what creates powerful observation. Misconception number 5. I can just visualize once in a while. The observer effect requires constant observation. Sorry to say. You're training your consciousness to habitually focus on the desired reality. Sporadic observation creates weak entanglement. Daily practice strengthens the quantum connection. Makes the wave function collapse more stable and more permanent. The real work here is it requires self-awareness, self-compassion, and gentle consistency. It's not about forcing or controlling. It's about aligning and allowing. It's becoming a clear, focused, consistent quantum observer. Then trusting the laws of physics to do what they do. Okay, It's time to do some truth-telling here. This is going to be the quantum truth about the power you hold. You are not separate from your reality. This is what quantum physics destroyed forever. The myth of the separate, powerless observer. You are not separate from reality. Watching it happen to you, you are the quantum observer, actively creating what you experience. This isn't a metaphor. This is measurable science. We're talking about the creative power of consciousness. Every major discovery in quantum physics points to the same truth. Consciousness is fundamental to reality. The observer effect, so consciousness collapses possibility into actuality. Entanglement, which is your inner state, instantly affects your outer world. The 0 point field, infinite potential awaiting your observation. And superposition, multiple realities existing until you choose one. Here's what this means for you. When you master 5D reality, when you become conscious, intentional, and aligned in how you observe, you harness the same creative force that births galaxies. That's not hyperbole. That's quantum mechanics. And that's your birthright. Here's my invitation. Stop trying to force your 3D reality to change. Stop hustling from survival consciousness. Cross the border by mastering 5D first. Become the clear quantum observer of your desired reality. Let entanglement do the rest. So here's a quick recap. You can't cross Maslow's border by working harder in 3D reality. Your 3D world is a very accurate reflection of what's going on in your 5D consciousness, whether you know it or not. Quantum physics proves that the observer creates reality. You are that observer. Master 5D reality first. We're talking imagination, beliefs, identity. And your 3D reality will naturally collapse to match what you're observing. Here's the quantum framework that you learned today. The difference between 3D wanting, which is scattered superposition, and 5D calling, which is collapsed wave function. You also learned the 5-part process for mastering 5D reality as the quantum observer, which you will find in the manifestation manual when you download it. You also learned why this works when other methods don't. It's based on the laws of physics. Here are the key quantum principles once again. The observer effect, which says your consciousness creates reality. Entanglement, which says that inner and outer are connected instantaneously. Superposition, which says you are choosing which reality to experience. It's up to you. 0 point field, which says all possibilities already exist. And wave function collapse, which says your clear observation makes possibility actual. Now, where do you go from here? I'll say it one more time. Download the Gentle Mastery Method Manifestation Manual. The link's in the show notes. Work through the worksheets and exercises. Pay special attention to identifying your emotional trigger, which is collapsing from want to calling. The 3D aspects imagination practice, which is becoming the quantum observer. The 7-day imagination integration, which is how you strengthen entanglement. And the evidence collection practice, which is training your left brain to see those shifts. Listen for the upcoming episode on this podcast about the consciousness signature. I want you to know also that understanding your human design and gene keys helps you work with your natural quantum mechanics and actually moves this process faster. It's literally why I was able to do it in 90 days, from 0 to 90 days. You're way ahead of me because you already have this information, right? Once you add in your consciousness signature with human design and the gene keys, it'll be so much faster for you. And I also want to invite you to become a part of my one-on-one manifestation intensive. Only do this really if you're ready to go deeper with me on this work. I mean, the manifestation intensive, it walks you through the entire process with me. It is one-on-one. It is personalized for your unique consciousness signature, your human design, and your gene keys, which is what I bring to the table here, along with guidance through this process. We explore exactly how your specific design creates your unique manifestation style. You learn to be the quantum observer in the way that's natural for you. Learn more at the link in the show notes about the manifestation intensive. Look, you're more powerful than you know. Quantum physics has proven that you're not a separate observer watching life happen to you. You are the creator, the observer, the one collapsing infinite possibilities into your lived experience. You've already done it. You're doing it right now. You don't need fixing. What you need is to remember and embody this truth. You are the quantum observer. And when you master 5D reality, when you align with your authentic self and observe clearly, your 3D world has no choice but to reflect that magnificence back to you. That's not magic. That's quantum mechanics. That's the promise of gentle mastery. Thanks for listening. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Peace.